very bright time when we are speaking about the National Nutrition Week. And over here, we are going to discuss special nutrition for kids who have autism and ADHD. Well, with me joining in is Richa, who is the founder of NutriSpect. And she is an amazing mom and handling, nutrition for kids with autism, has been creating awareness about autism and also has been dealing with wonderful moms who have been supporting her in this community. I welcome you, Richa, to Baby Chakra, and I would love to understand how does nutrition play a very important role when it comes to kids with special needs. Over to you.
Hi, Pooja. First of all, wish you a very happy National Nutrition Week and month. And I am really, really thankful to you for having me over here because autism is a topic which I think is less discussed amongst the nutritionist community. But when I am talking about the practical experience that I have had over the last decade, I can say I have found that nutrition intervention has been able to modulate the manifestations and the symptoms that the children on the spectrum exhibit to a very
Right.
large extent. So nutrition definitely plays a key role in management of those symptoms, and also it helps in the success of the other therapies that the child is undergoing, be it occupational therapy, be it speech therapy, be it desensitization, whatever sort of other therapies the child is undergoing. Because a child on the spectrum needs a lot of support, not just in the terms of learning, not just in the terms of understanding, but also in the terms of daily everyday functions that we do, that we might unconsciously do every day, like even brushing your teeth. That is such a simple act that we think that it is kind of a routine, and we don't have to really make a huge effort. It has turned into a habit for us. But for a person on the autism spectrum, it may at times be challenging for some of them. So even for them to achieve the level where they can brush their teeth independently requires some sort of support. So a lot of support, different types of supports and therapies are required for these children, and the success of these therapies depends a lot upon the nutritional status of the child. That is
Okay.
where nutrition stands in autism at the center stage.
Right. So, we have been hearing a lot about various diets, fad diets, but research hasn't really given us a, to go message about this can be is short, or, we talk about gluten free diet, casein free diet, or a combination. At a point, there is nothing concrete when it comes to nutrition for when it comes to autism. Every nutritionist is, having a protocol followed, but do you really think that staying away from a few foods do help the moms to make their children a little bit better? And how would you educate our moms on this community about the same?
Yeah, so see, autism is not a single diagnosis. Autism is not something where we can say that the child will have this particular problem and at a this level or at this grade of expression. So, autism is a spectrum. By spectrum, we
Correct.
mean say it is multifaceted. It can have many manifestations at various degrees of expressions. Okay, so by this I mean to say that a child on the autism spectrum, on one hand, one child can have a little bit of intellectual disability, but he might be very good at playing with toys, while on the other hand, a child on the autism spectrum can be very good at intellectual abilities, but maybe having some basic movement inhibitions. So
Correct.
it is very multifaceted and very diverse. So that is why no single blanket approach works for autism. Like I
Okay.
know GFCF is a very very popular kind of dietary approach that is adopted for children on the autism spectrum. But GFCF also is not one sort of a diet that we can say that this will sure short work for children on the autism spectrum, and no research supports that. Okay,
Correct.
go ahead, find out on PubMed and all of the places where we find scholarly articles. No article would say that this is a particular sort of diet that can work sure shot for a child on the autism spectrum. Why? Because
Right.
of such a diverse nature of the spectrum, right? So the best thing that I advise parents to do is to wa- eliminate, watch, and then reintroduce, and then
Okay.
watch, and then again go ahead and eliminate other things. So it has to be done phase wise. I cannot
Hmm.
eliminate all the foods that can be a trigger. There can be hundreds of triggers for a child on the spectrum.
Yes.
The trigger can be gluten, the trigger can be casein, the trigger can be soy, the trigger can even be almonds, the trigger can even be something like a flaxseed. So we cannot
Right.
omit all of these things in a single go, because otherwise we'll have to face a lot of nutritional deficiencies, right? So
Right.
I say generally what I do with people coming to me is I select one particular item. We work on that particular item for 6 weeks. I eliminate, watch, and then reintroduce. So this is
Okay.
how we do it for our children, because it is important to make the children acquainted to the regular diet that the family is consuming. Okay, in
Correct.
a family, if we are having, like in north of India, we do a lot of roti sabzi dal chawal, and if I
Correct.
ask a child to not to have roti at all, that may be something that cannot be sustained, right, for a long period of time. So I will have to give the options for the roti, for chapati.
Correct.
And the children
Correct.
also have a lot of sensitivities. Okay,
Yes.
the texture sensitivities, texture, taste, flavor, color, these
Hmm.
sensitivities are very very high in case of autism spectrum disorder, so we have to keep those sensitivities also in mind.
Right. So that is beautifully told, Richa, that everything is very, very customized, and understanding that that everything will not suit for everybody, according to
Absolutely.
the different time zones, according to the different cultures that they follow at home. These diets are planned. But my one basic question to you is that when we hear about so many diets coming into picture, success rate we do not know, but hear and say or something that people Google upon and ask, and then they follow, and then they come to us as a nutritionist at the end or the last minute what we say. So when there has been so much of I wouldn't say damage is the correct word over here, but it's fragmented, and then we have to start reworking it all over again. How do you try and convince that a mother that she's like, I have done this, I've done this, but nothing is working out, and then they are coming to us. So what is that key factor that you help her to understand that what she did was absolutely correct, but this is the way we need to do it further? How can
So,
you put your take over
yeah,
here?
so Pooja, whenever a parent comes to me, just imagine if you are coming to me, just take it up as a live example for our audience, right? If you are a parent coming to me with the child on the autism spectrum, the motive that you have come to me is to achieve development and achieve enhancement in the basic functions of the child, right?
Correct.
So,
Correct.
and for that, you are also going to multiple other therapists. You are going to
Yes.
occupational therapist, you are going to physiotherapist, you are going to speech and language therapist, you are going to for desensitization, you are also sending the child for special education in the school. So you have a schedule chalked out for the entire day, where a lot of things have to happen at fixed time. Morning
Yes.
9 to 12, the child will be in the school. After that, you will be taking the child for OT. After that, you will be taking the child for speech therapy. So a lot of things are there happening in the entire day. Now, where is nutrition going to happen? Nutrition is going
Hmm.
to happen in the entire day. After every 2 3 hours, you have to feed the child. The child has to eat something, and this is something that the mother will have to be at it for the whole day, for 24 hours, like 12 hours at least. The mother is
Correct.
thinking about what I need to give the child in the next meal, right? So nutrition is happening at small intervals and in small quantities, I would say, in the entire day between the therapies, right? So
Hmm.
because of all the fixed schedules that are happening, nutrition somehow takes the back seat, because
Yes.
mother is particular about I have to send the child for special education. I have to take him to OT. I have to take him to speech therapy, because she knows that these things are important for the child. But what she doesn't know is that a lack of proper nutrition is going to impact the outcome of all these therapies also.
Correct.
That is what is important for the parents to know, and that is what I tell in all my talks, and to all the parents who come to me, and even to dietitians who come to me. I always tell them that nutrition is at the center stage. It is something which is going to impact the outcome of each and every therapy that the child is enrolled for.
Yes.
So parents have to be educated about the nutrition and the right nutrition as per the child's requirement, as per the child's sensitivities. So making that importance established in the minds of the parents becomes important.
Correct. Over this gets me into a question. A mother is asking that, my child is around 3 years old, and I have been trying to give him diet, but that doesn't suit him. I have tried various nutritionists, but every per se there has been a difference. So to convince this mother to understand that she knows the importance of nutrition, but she is not able to do it in the right way. So how, what are the baby steps she can take, and then join the pieces of the puzzle so that it will be helpful for her child?
So this is a little unfortunate for me to say that the dietitians and even doctors are not very well educated about the autism spectrum disorder.
Okay.
Sadly, we do not study nutrition in our regular college curriculum. Okay, we have to learn it with practice and by attending various different optional courses. Some of the dietitians do go ahead and attend those optional courses and get the required knowledge for managing the cases of autism, while other dietitians just do it like any other case. In
Correct.
and of course, it is not going to. Other approaches do not work with autism. Autism is a special case and has to be handled with a lot of sensitivity and sensibility. So, if
Right.
the dietitian is not qualified or has not taken up any learning in managing autism spectrum disorder, then of course she will not be able to help the parents. So, my suggestion would be to reach out to a nutritionist who has learned autism and has practiced autism for a enough period of time, at least for 4 5 years, so that she knows that every case that is going to come to her is going to be different. No two children on the autism spectrum can be given the same kind of diet. So
Right.
it is important for nutritionists to understand this because you cannot practice it like we practice diabetes, or like we practice renal disorders, or like we practice growth spurts or PCOS. Autism is a special condition and needs to be treated specially. So you will
Right.
have to get yourself educated first. And to the parents, my advice would be try to search out for the nutritionists who have trained in managing autism spectrum disorder and reach out to them. Okay. If you really want to make nutrition, use nutrition as a tool to create impact in the child's growth and development. Otherwise, what you can do on an everyday basis, be watchful of the triggers. Number one. Number two, try to eliminate one trigger at a time so that you know that this particular food is triggering or not triggering. Thirdly, try to reintroduce the food after a certain period of time. I know that children on the spectrum have a lot of feeding issues. Parents feed a lot of feeding issues with these children. They do not accept, food acceptance is really, really low in case of autism spectrum disorder. And managing the diets becomes a great, great challenge. That is why the support of dietitians and nutritionists becomes important, because we are the ones who can give you the right kind of advice in terms of how to modify the texture, how to modify the food, how to modify the ingredients so that it suits the needs of the child and also is accepted by the child.
Right. Coming to that point, Richa, can you just share a basic guideline of what should be included to make the nutrition a little bit healthy? On what can be eliminated? What is required and what is to be eliminated? Just a basic guideline.
Yeah. So before giving the guideline, I would want everyone to take a step back and think about what are the primary things or the primary issues that the child faces. Okay,
Okay.
that is important for us to know first, right? Only then we will be able to help with the diet, right? So one
Yes.
major issue that the children face, and which I have found almost 80% of children coming to me do face this issue, is the gut issue. Gut health is
Okay.
highly compromised in case of children on the autism spectrum. They will be having either a lot of constipation or a lot of intolerances or a lot of bloating, or the food acceptability will be very, very low, and they would be having erratic bowel movements.
Okay.
So gut issue is highly prominent in case of children on the autism spectrum. Second common condition that I see is frequent illnesses, frequent infections. Now that is also impacted by the compromised gut health, but also low nutritional status in terms of vitamins and minerals and the biochemistry that we see for the child. So we see a lot
Yes.
of deficiencies over there. Okay, so
Yes.
biochemistry becomes very, very important. Try to manage the biochemical profile of the child, try to manage the gut health of the child, try to bring the child to an optimum nutritional status. Now, there is a specific pattern that I have seen in children on the autism spectrum, that until the age of 4 years, the child will do well, and you will find the child maybe a little bit underweight, and the child food acceptability is low, and the child doesn't eat anything. So children up to the age of 4 5 years tend to be a little underweight when they come to me with autism spectrum. But when we see a child of around 6 to 8 years or 10 years, the children are obese generally in that bracket.
Okay.
The children of the autism spectrum. Now, why does that happen? Because over the years, children get to be fascinated by, and it is a natural tendency, we all are developed with this tendency, that we have an inclination towards the food that taste a little sweeter or that are richer in simple carbohydrates.
Correct.
This is a natural human evolutionary tendency. Okay, because we the tendencies develop with the survival of the fittest and all of these principles of evolution. So this is a natural human tendency, and these children are no exception. They will also develop that tendency, but with passing years, the intake of these simple carbohydrates becomes so high that they tend to fall in the obese bracket. They would become overweight, but on the other hand, they would be depleted on the protein and the essential fatty acids and on the micronutrients. So what's
Micronutrients. Right.
important for you is to give a diet which is low in simple carbohydrates, optimum intake of proteins, optimum intake of essential fatty acids, and fiber and fluid becomes a very, very important part. Generally,
Correct.
when we write guidelines, we see that people generally tend to overlook the importance of fluid and fiber, but fluid and fiber becomes very, very important in this case because gut health is compromised. To manage a
Yes.
good gut health and to re-establish a good gut health, fiber and fluid are hugely important. Okay, and incorporation of prebiotics, incorporation of probiotics again becomes vital for these children.
Right. So basically, you have covered it in a beautiful way that the mothers, need to be taking understanding that nutrition plays a core importance in diverting the energy for channelization of the therapies, basically.
Yeah.
Like nutrition being the center, and then the mother can take her child to the physiotherapy or the BT or the OT, and that's all beautifully said. One question comes in my mind: does ketogenic diet really work for kids with autism? Is it
So,
beneficial? It's a lot
see,
talked about.
yeah, yeah. So, what happens over here? Like I said, that the fascination towards the foods that are rich in carbohydrates is high in case of autism spectrum disorder, and these foods which are high in simple carbohydrates do create neuroinflammation, which
Hmm.
aggravates the symptoms of autism spectrum disorder. Now, ketogenic diet is a diet which is exceptionally low in carbohydrates
Carbohydrates,
and
yes.
optimum in protein and high in fats. Now when we talk say keto diet, so keto diet can be helpful, and there have been researchers which have said that keto diet can be helpful for children on this autism spectrum, but it is a diet which is difficult to follow. okay,
Yes.
which restricts the foods to a very very large extent. So because of this restriction, and because we know that the children on the autism spectrum are picky eaters, they will be choosing only certain foods of certain texture, certain flavor, certain color. So, making a child follow a ketogenic diet becomes a challenge for the mothers, right? So, if a person is able to follow now more than keto, what is I would suggest is more beneficial is modified Atkins. Modified
Yes.
Atkins kind of is a little liberal, and we can incorporate certain foods that the child likes, and we can gradually make the child start follow the modified Atkins for some period of time, so that we can see its impact, and if we see enhancement, then we can definitely go ahead with that. But basic strategy over here also remains the same: cutting down the simple carbohydrates and increasing the fat intake. And even
Thank
the
you.
kind of fats that we use for the children on the autism spectrum is also important. We cannot give all sorts of fats. We cannot keep giving them trans fats or saturated fats. We will have to select the right kind of fats that we want to give, because we want neuronal development. So our focus is going to be on the foods which are anti-inflammatory, foods which are hypoallergenic, right? So going for food fats which are richer sources of omega 3 and omega 6 fatty acids are more predominantly used for children on the other spectrum.
Thank you for throwing a light on that, because this question has been answered for all the moms at a baby chakra. Because when we talk about developmental milestones, and when we talk about age milestones, which there if there is a gap which starts to begin, and then the mothers fall a short of words like "Mera bacha aisa hai," they don't want to label their child. But when we have to speak about nutrition, and when it comes to special needs, it's taking a step back.
Yeah.
Richa, your thoughts were really, really helpful. And if anybody would like to connect with Richa, she is available online. She does amazing counseling sessions for nutrition and autism. You can have a look at her website. Richa, can you please share your details about your website and
Yeah,
how
you
to the
can follow
audience?
me on Instagram. I am available on social media platforms: Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. So you on Instagram, I am by Neutrospect by Richa. So you can reach out to me over there. My website is neutrospect.com. So you can also reach out to me through my website, or else you can drop in an email to me at neutrospectbyricha@gmail.com. So I would be happy to connect with you.
Right. And definitely, you moms will have a wonderful chance to connect with Richa, who will give you one on one, specific requirements for your child, and your child would be really, really benefited. Richa, thank you for sparing out your valuable time. And in this National Nutrition Week, we have been talking about diets. Women and child healthcare is one of the,
Yeah.
propaganda for our talks this time. So
Right.
I think we did a good talk over here, and it was lovely to catch up with you.
It was my pleasure entirely, Pooja. Thank you for the opportunity, and I wish all of you a very happy and healthy future, yourself and for your children. Have a great life ahead.
Thank you. Thank you so much.